Hey guys, Isabel here. Welcome back to Reeled In. Today is another Dyad discussion with my friend Connor. And today we will be discussing Obi-Wan Kenobi Part 5. So now, after this, we only have one episode left. But this episode, for me, was intense. Okay, so the episode opened with the start of a flashback. You and I have had discussions on flashbacks for this series. Now, I think you and I might actually differ in our opinions on this one because I liked this flashback. Did you like it?
I did too. I don't not like flashbacks. I just think that the show isn't even over and people were already calling it garbage and trash because they didn't immediately get the flashback that they wanted. I think this flashback is a lot better than I think what most people were anticipating was going to happen, which would have been a live action translation of the Clone Wars series, which would have been cool to see. But I didn't necessarily need it. I think, I guess I'll let you share your thoughts on the flashback before I say what I'm going to say, because it very well might be the same thing.
I enjoyed it. I agree with you. As cool as it would be to see a live action, I guess, remake of the Clone Wars with, the actors who played, Obi-Wan and Anakin. I like this flashback better because instead of it just being some cool flashback for like a nod to the Clone Wars, it actually pertained to the episode. It told the story of this episode, and it shows us that, Obi-Wan was always trying to teach Anakin lessons. And even now, with Anakin as Darth Vader, he still has not learned those lessons. And so that's why, Obi-Wan will always sort of triumph over Anakin and Darth Vader.
I agree. So at first, I've seen it twice now. And at first I wasn't too sure about the way that it was edited in, but upon second watch, I actually really like it because I was able to actually watch it. Like the reason I like this flashback because it took place before the Clone Wars, so Anakin was still a Padawan. I think it would be a lot harder to have a more like heartfelt and important kind of message in parallel to Anakin and Vader in that moment, if it were during the Clone Wars, because people who watch the series obviously know. But even in the films, like they're very different Anakins. They're a lot more developed Anakins. And then once you have Ahsoka in the picture for the Clone Wars series, he's taken on the role of master. Whereas here, he's still very, very arrogant and still very, I guess, kind of caught up in his own thought processes and not really looking outward at the bigger picture necessarily,
right?
Where Obi-Wan obviously able to do that a little more.
Did you like how the whole flashback was like broken up into parts and it like kind of flashed in? Because it's kind of like, because I did how it was edited like that, because it's kind of like both Anakin and Obi-Wan are remembering the same past event, but Obi-Wan remembers the end of it, whereas Anakin may not, or is blinded by his own anger that he just can't deal with it.
Right.
And now we finally have more Obi-Wan screen time. And it's not just focused on the Inquisitors or young Leia. But speaking of Inquisitors, to me, Reva steals the show. Probably maybe unpopular opinion, but I'm a Reva fan. I like her character a lot. And it was confirmed that you and I were speculating that she was in fact a youngling, the same youngling who was in the beginning of episode 1.
Talk about flashbacks.
Yeah.
We got two different flashbacks. So I think everybody in this episode overall, I think everybody kind of at some point got what they really, really wanted.
Yeah. I have to say, I was all here for Sith Reva, but I'm happy that it was kind of confirmed that she she's still a Sith, but she had her own path.
No, she's not.
You don't think she is?
She's not a Sith.
I still think she is.
The Inquisitors cannot achieve the rank of Sith, especially
Oh.
now without a master. She's not a master to Vader. She achieved the rank of Grand Inquisitor for a hot
For a
minute,
hot second.
but it was kind of only as a stepping stone for Vader to get what he wanted.
For a second, though, towards the end of the episode, I really did think he was going to make Reva his apprentice. For like a split second, I was like, is it going to come? But then it didn't. Okay, then maybe not Sith, but then I think Reva, as we've been talking about, is a very good example of like a dark side user, because that's very like a dark side thing to do, you know, gaining power for your own ambition, your own revenge, your own anger. But yeah, I am glad that she just wasn't like an inquisitor to be an inquisitor. And I think Moses did such a good job in this episode. Like this, like when she was like whispering with Kenobi, I was like, that's so good. Anyway.
I do wish that they had another face-to-face in that moment, but I mean, they get one a little bit later. So again, everybody kind of gets what they wanted.
Yeah, I do think though, because just staying on the subject of her, so I had a theory, and I do think I did tell you, I just didn't tell you during one of our discussions, was that my past theory was that because Reva throughout the series has obviously been unbalanced, has been swayed by many different emotions, both, you know, anger and maybe goodness a little bit. And she definitely held back with Leia too, I believe. So I was under the impression that something was going to happen to Leia and that Reva was going to save Leia in some way, shape, or form. But after seeing this episode, my theory has kind of evolved to Reva not exactly saving Leia, but perhaps she might be the one to help save Luke, because Reva, she's very smart. We've seen how smart she is. I'm assuming has now figured out that Luke and Leia, or at least Luke, is Anakin's child/children, because she saw the holo message at the end, you know, that Haja dropped. And then the very last scene is, you know, we're on Tatooine and Luke is sleeping in his bed. But we obviously know Luke remains safe because A New Hope. So I feel like it just gave me the impression that something bad was going to happen on Tatooine. But I don't know how that would happen, because why would Vader have a reason to go to Tatooine for episode 6?
So I think that's just it though. I don't think that she's going to save them, because like Vader, she gets so caught up in her own notions and her own plans. And she'll do whatever it takes to achieve those. So like her abducting Leia, it had nothing to do with Leia. As we learn in this episode, it wasn't really about Leia. And for that matter, it wasn't really about Obi-Wan either. Obi-Wan, like the Inquisitors, are just are chess pieces, you know, to win the overall game, which for her is killing Vader to seek revenge for what he did to her and the Jedi and all her friends. So I wouldn't hold too much faith that she's going to do the right thing, at least not immediately, like not yet. I think she's going to put the pieces together, and she'll probably try to draw Obi-Wan out, because that's the only way to really get Vader at a point where he is vulnerable enough that he could even possibly be defeated.
Even though we obviously know that he is not defeated until later.
Yeah. And as we saw in this duel, he is not.
Oh, he's so powerful.
As good of a duelist as any of the Inquisitors may be, including the Grand Inquisitor, they can't hold a candle to Vader.
I don't think anyone, honestly, can hold a candle to Vader.
Except Luke, by that point, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I know obviously there's like a time difference between when the first trilogy was made and now, but like, where was that power from Vader in the originals, you know? I just feel like he was a lot more subdued in the originals. And obviously I know that probably because of like all the time differences, technology has improved, you know, choreography has improved. So
some of that, there's a little bit of fan service. If you really want to grasp at strings for canonical reasons, you could argue that Ahsoka, I forgot about Ahsoka. Ahsoka can definitely hold a candle.
Yeah.
She can hold two candles.
She can hold
one that's longer than the other. if you get what I mean. But you could argue that whole ordeal, because that's give or take 15 years after he puts on the suit.
Mm-hmm.
You could argue that because he walks out, spoiler for Rebels, he walks out of that temple at the end of the second season not looking too great.
Yeah.
So
just over time, wear and tear,
Yeah, because there's a couple moments where someone does kind of give him a bit of a run for his money.
Yeah, I did think at the end, because I did in my reaction to this episode, and at the end I was wondering what Reva was going to do with the information, because I was thinking she was going to tell Vader, but then I was like, why would she? Like, he literally stabbed her, so I was like, I feel like that would be a step back for her character to tell him.
Well, at this point it's mask off. Why would she go to him? Because that doesn't do her any good.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just
help
very
him
curious.
Figure that out.
Yeah.
But
he doesn't. Vader doesn't know anyway until like
episode 5.
Yeah. So
around that time, there's speculations beforehand, I think. But yeah, it wouldn't do her any good to tell any of the Inquisitors. Certainly not. It wouldn't do her any good to tell Vader either. I don't know.
Because I don't know. Would I be correct in assuming that there was a very intense suspense and like scariness at the end of this episode? Like I was like something's bad is gonna happen. Literally, like my heart is beating, but I don't even know what could happen. Because we ended, it just confused me how we ended on Tatooine and Luke specifically. So you get the impression that something bad is going to attempt to happen to Luke and Tatooine. So I'm kind of like, are we gonna get Vader on Tatooine? I have no idea. Honestly, I have no idea. I was a little bit confused.
He's been to Tatooine before.
Yeah.
He just didn't come across the Lars homestead. I mean, it can still happen. They might pull a Bad Batch where it retcons a couple things from the comics, but that's not the biggest deal in the world. And as I think people were thinking and assuming that they were completely going to retcon the Grand Inquisitor, which I knew they weren't going to do. I had a feeling, I just didn't know when, but I knew it was going to be some big thing that he kind of shows up and he's like, I've been here the entire time.
Yeah, I was like,
are the least of us.
Vader's had him in the closet for like 3 episodes.
Yeah. And going back to what I said last time, and I think for episode 3, and what a lot of people have been saying, he's still Anakin Skywalker, so he's still going to be extra.
Yeah, literally though, I didn't know I needed to see Darth Vader with 2 red lightsabers until this episode happened.
Yeah, if we're gonna jump ahead to the fight, how utterly disrespectful it was to her. He doesn't even fight her with his own lightsaber.
He fights her
with her own weapon.
I know.
It makes her believe that she has a fighting chance, even though he knows, and she knows probably deep down, as you see when she is defeated, and the way that she looks up at him before he stabs her.
The same way he already once stabbed her.
Yeah, she knew, but she was so blinded by her rage, as the Grand Inquisitors had even thrown back in her face.
Mm-hmm. Except for like minor moments in, the other movies and even TV shows, I feel like this is the most powerful we've ever seen Vader. Because to me, stopping a ship from like taking off, that was like, I think, and I could be forgetting because it's been a number of years and there's many different media for Star Wars. But the first time, and probably even the last time I saw it, was in, which I know is not canon anymore, but the Force Unleashed video game, like my very first Star Wars video game ever with Star Killer. Mm-hmm. That was the first and only time I think I've seen that happen, unless I'm missing in a memory from like the Clone Wars or Rebels.
Successfully. There are other instances. So you do have the Clone Wars. So you have Ahsoka doing that with Maul. but she cuts her losses,
Mhm. Oh yeah,
lets him
yeah.
go. And then you have it in the Rise of Skywalker with Rey and Kylo. And
Oh yeah.
if she would have been able to if Kylo wasn't there instigating her. Nobody has pulled it down that easily ever.
Mhm. And then ripped it to
Ever.
shreds.
Ever. Sorry, Star Killer fans.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like I just really I enjoyed seeing Vader be Darth Vader. Powerful, angry, violent,
The chosen one.
brutal. The
More or
chosen one.
less.
The
More or
chosen one.
less.
It didn't even like cross my mind that there was going to be like a Riva and Vader.
Yeah, I was thinking. So I like when she cut down the doors, I was like, are we gonna get an Obi-Wan versus Riva?
Yeah, I was
Because
thinking that too.
that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. And then one of the other things I wanted was whether she turned or not, I did want a duel with the Inquisitors,
Mhm.
and I got something better.
You got a Riva and a
I got
Darth
a Riva
Vader.
Vader.
I feel like a part of me, and I'm sure many other fans as well, are still waiting for like the big duel. Because these duels so far, they've been like pretty cool, but they kind of remind me of the like original duels where it's very like slap lightsabers together. Okay, I'm gonna run away now. So that does kind of remind me of that. And I do like the duels as well.
I kind of like that though in this kind of new translation. So you do have new expectations for duels, but you have this new technology too with like the lightsabers and all that. So
Mhm.
I think having that isn't the worst, because in the flashback you get a pretty significant training duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan. The two of them still do a really good job at kind of emulating that choreography that we're used to for the prequels.
Mhm.
So I actually don't mind it a whole lot, and I think I just think it translates well as kind of like a connective sort of space, because you do get a little bit of everything. You get that prequel era fight, but then you, as you mentioned, you do get stuff that reminds you a little bit more of the sequels.
Yeah, the specifically the duel between Riva and Vader. It started off more like the original lightsaber duels, and then it kind of morphed into more of like a prequel, a little bit faster, more twists and turns, like with like body language wise. So I did like it, but I do think that there is like a climax that's missing, because usually duels are usually represent like they're used to represent the kind of the climax of like an episode or a story or a movie. So I think we're kind of still waiting for that to happen. Obviously, we have one
Yep.
more episode, but
Yeah.
those are just my feelings on that one.
I just have a strong feeling that the duel that we've already seen is not the one that Ms. Kennedy was talking about.
I think episode 6 will be really big. Okay, I just want to talk about, were you emotional when Tala died?
A little bit, yeah.
I
I mean,
cried.
not as much as I wish I was.
A tear escaped my eye.
Really?
Yeah, and I
See,
think it
I was
was,
it. What did it for me was when Nedby fell on top, or kind of deactivated
yeah,
on top of her, and then she's like, "All right, I gotta take the L."
it was
That's
the
when I was like,
droid.
"Oh,
It was the droid for
it's
me.
always the droid."
I know. But it's because like, and he didn't even have any lines.
Yeah.
He showed up for like 5 minutes, and I'm crying over the death of a droid. And I think it's just because like you could tell their connectivity, and the fact that with the dying of the droid, he used his last moments, or the droid's last moments, to like protect her from gunfire, enough for her to be able to detonate that bomb.
Yeah.
I literally, like, if you watch my reaction, like, I'm pretty sure you can see the tear just like roll out of my eye.
Oh, I'll have to
I
watch that later.
was like, I
I
can't believe.
I think it's what she and what they represent. So like that little spiel that she gave Obi-Wan, that would have been nice to have had maybe an episode or two before, but I understand that like from a writer's standpoint, you want to have that moment, but sometimes you don't always necessarily have the availability to do that. So I can just see people being like, "I was forced, there was rushed." Yeah, of course it was rushed, because she didn't
Because she
appear in
dies.
because she didn't appear in the first two episodes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think if she was here since episode 1 or 2, you would have had a little more time to stretch that out, but she's one of the plot conveyors. You know what I mean?
I don't think it was like forced or like in a random place, because she tells that to Obi-Wan when he himself is in like a time of great emotional turmoil. You know, she tells it to him to kind of like help him not only understand, but sort of, you know, realize that his own past mistakes is not what should be his driving force for how he lives. And then, of course, she kind of did have to say it because, you know, she literally died later. But it creates a little bit more of like an emotional connection with her when she does die. And like you said, like this is, you know, she went out, you know, feeling that like she was, you know, protecting everyone, which she couldn't do, as her story indicated in the past.
So actually there is something I do want to mention on kind of on that topic. I know a lot of people don't like this, but her signature move by grabbing the helmet and tossing a stormtrooper aside, she does that twice.
Yeah.
She does that twice again in this episode.
The bucket heads.
Yeah. And to that, I think it plays into the whole trope that you can't see a damn thing out of those stormtrooper helmets. Again, just kind of getting ahead of the game there. So I think that choreography actually holds pretty well to everybody's notions.
Yeah. That whole scene and the choreography reminded me a lot of The Last Jedi.
Yeah. A lot of this series actually reminds me of The Last Jedi. This narrative with Obi-Wan takes, I think, the turn that The Last Jedi did not. With Luke.
Okay, so now that we only have one more episode left, I'm kind of jumping around talking about this whole episode, but I feel like we have to see Qui-Gon.
Oh yeah, we forgot about him this episode.
We forgot about him in all the episodes except for episode 1.
No, that's not true. We got him through 3. I don't think he was mentioned at all in the last one and then this one. But I'm interested to see where they go with that, if they, you know, come full circle with that in episode or part 6, I should say, because this is like a 4 to 5 hour film. Keep that in mind, because if as a film, it would be really strange if that is not the crux of the plot, right? To have him screaming and crying to Qui-Gon the entire time, right? It just wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. So it is appropriate to have a break here and there. I think some of these things just seem a little off because they're built like episodically or like by chapter.
Yeah, with the whole Qui-Gon thing, I will accept Obi-Wan's journey being from him starting off as sort of trying to rely on help from his old master, like the Force ghost of his old master, or the idea of his old master, to him being confident enough in himself, being able to open himself up to the Force. I will be okay with that. But what I think, if that is, like, I feel like we will get Qui-Gon in some way, shape, or form, but if what I just said is the way it goes down, I know many people will be disappointed strictly because of how this production and even, you know, the heads of Star Wars and Lucasfilms have set up, we're going to get Qui-Gon. And also like this big battle, just in case it doesn't happen.
I have a feeling the same way with the Grand Inquisitor, that these things are going to happen in a very similar way that I think a few of us are able to think. Because you do see at the end of this episode that Obi-Wan's overall relationship with the Force, or connection to the Force, you know, is starting to kind of be rekindled, because when Reva finds the holoprojector, he senses, you know, that something is wrong. He just can't quite figure that out.
Right.
So I have a feeling that at some point Obi-Wan's not even going to be trying, and it's just going to be this meditative state, or this like kind of metaphysical state, and he's going to hear Qui-Gon, something like that. That would be cool. If he's like calling out to him, that would also be cool. If he doesn't answer at all and it's just kind of implied, that's also fine.
Yeah.
Because like the only thing that I am just hopeful for is that somewhere along the line that kind of connects to him being able to exist beyond his corporeal form, in the cosmic force as a continuing entity, as a force ghost.
I could also see, because again, there's this moment of suspense that something bad's going to happen on Tatooine, and Obi-Wan will most likely, maybe probably lose for a portion of time. And if he's like captured or in a cell, like he's somewhere, I feel like he might going to be somewhere, and like you said, he's going to be like trying to meditate, and he's going to have to get through a lot of mental blocks during this state, and maybe then he'll hear or even see Qui-Gon. I feel like that could also be a possibility, but then again, I am okay with the idea of Qui-Gon's presence simply being Obi-Wan following in his master's footsteps to become enlightened within the Force. I'm okay with that, and I understand why other people wouldn't be okay with it, because
some people want to see everything.
Yeah.
But sometimes, and I know, again, this is why I think this is also why people don't like Rian Johnson's work, especially in The Last Jedi. One thing that I know he really makes an effort of in a lot of his films, and will lose people sometimes, is he doesn't make it easy for his audience at all. He always makes them work. I think Deborah Chow also knows what she's doing. That's like, this whole episode was about patience and just kind of not getting too caught up in your preconceived notions. That's why I keep saying notions. Letting Deborah Chow tell the story that she's been trying to tell, and that I think she's worked very closely with the story group at Lucasfilm. Just give it time. I think people are actually going to be happy.
Yeah, I think episode or part whatever 6 will be long,
hopefully.
But I did also think that about the Book of Boba Fett, and then that was like one of the shortest episodes, and I was like,
yeah,
okay. So yeah, would it be cool to see Qui-Gon? Yeah. Do I personally need it? No, because in my mind I can think of ways to connect Qui-Gon without actually seeing him to Obi-Wan. Do I understand why people would be angry? Yes, because Lucasfilm, and with that whole 10-minute previously on, it insinuated that Qui-Gon was in fact going to be in this show. But moving on. One thing I also liked about this episode, and I don't know if a lot of people caught it, well, about this whole series in general, is Leia and Obi-Wan's relationship with each other. And it gives the "Help me, Obi-Wan" and A New Hope a new meaning entirely.
Mm-hmm.
But not just because Leia admires Obi-Wan and Obi-Wan was protecting her, but I think also because Obi-Wan let her take initiative.
Kind of like how we didn't have to deal with the fifth brother whining.
Oh, yeah.
Unpopular opinion maybe, but I miss the Rebels fifth brother, where he didn't really talk.
He just ran into things,
and he just kind of
swung his lightsaber around.
Yeah.
Neither of the Inquisitors, except for Reva and eventually the Grand Inquisitor, were in this episode. I feel like they're gonna take a back seat.
I know fourth sister had a couple lines. Like, they designed her a lightsaber and everything. She hasn't even used it.
Do you think they're going to play a big role in episode 6, or do you think they're kind of starting to take a backseat?
It would be nice to see them kind of carry their own weight for once. Yeah, it's a little disappointing to see them take a backseat, but
yeah,
because like I said, I wanted an Inquisitor fight.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we might get a Reva versus Inquisitors,
maybe
in next episode, especially if she's trying to stop them for some reason. Maybe also going back to my earlier theory that isn't really a theory, just something I think would be cool to see. I have a lot of excitement for next episode, but I also do have a little bit of fear because, like you said, what if it's super short? I feel like I think the pacing is good, but I feel like you still have a good amount of stuff you need to close out, especially with this is supposed to be a limited series, which means one season. So,
right.
Yeah.
We got a goose out, I think, last episode. But I think that's why this one hit so hard for so many people, because tonally it's very different.
It's a very emotional episode.
Took a full 180.
I'll be honest though, this is the vibe of this episode is kind of what I wanted for the whole series. I wanted the trauma, the despair, the sad Obi-Wan. I wanted it all.
I mean, it's there, I think, for most of it. I think literally the last episode, with the exception of that opening scene, the parallel between him and Vader in the Bacta tank.
So I hopefully the vibe continues on to next episode. I'm ready to experience all the feels at once for episode part 6. Well, guys, that is our discussion on part 5 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Connor, thank you so much for joining me. It's always fun to talk Star Wars with you. And guys, be sure to leave a like on the video. Comment, was your favorite scene from this episode, and what do you think is going to happen next episode? Be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss future Star Wars reaction videos as well as Star Wars discussion videos. But guys, that's what I got for you today. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.